The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Winston Salem exists to build an inclusive community of spiritual freedom, evolving wisdom, and ethical action. After a leadership retreat this past November and some wordsmithing, the Long Range Planning Committee has come up with this provisional mission statement. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Winston Salem exists to build inclusive community of spiritual freedom, evolving wisdom, and ethical action. The purpose of a mission statement is to answer the question, why is this fellowship here? Hence, it begins, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Winston-Salem exists to. We were searching for an answer that was short enough for people to remember, yet complete enough to give a sense of who we are. Of course, it is impossible to describe us in one sentence. It's best to think of this as a headline that makes you want to read more. The Long Range Planning Committee in the upcoming months will be getting more input from the congregation. The mission statement will be examined and probably tweaked a couple more times. And the expanded vision and goals that stem from our mission will be churned and discussed in many meetings. And then the congregation will vote on the mission statement and the long-range plan at our annual meeting in May. This is a work in progress, and I don't have a complete statement to give you for that reason. But I want to talk to you about it this Sunday because this Sunday is Canvas Sunday, the sermon that kicks off the annual pledge drive, the money sermon. So I'm trying to give you informed consent. I don't want you all to buy a pig and a poke. So I'm going to give you my understanding of the proposed mission statement of this church. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Winston-Salem exists to build. Now the first word is build, and it implies a creative process. It implies hard work. And this is the nitty-gritty. This is the infrastructure. This is the building, the committees, the grounds. This pays the minister's salary and the salary of the DRE and the staff. This is the number crunching. This is the bones of the operation. But it's not the reason why we build. If we were interested in only building buildings, we would join an architectural firm or the carpenters union. If we were only interested in the grounds, we would join a garden society. If this fellowship was not formed for the purpose of paying staff salaries. This fellowship exists to build community. The 1989 Long Range Plan said, a feeling of community is one of the things that a religious organization must provide. In 1998, when searching for a new minister, this congregation was surveyed, and the number one reason for supporting this fellowship was community. At the retreat that was held last November, community rose to the top of the reasons for our existence. That's why the Canvas Committee chose as a theme for this year's Canvas, building community. Building community is why we choose to have a pledge party this Saturday night. And at coffee hour, this is not a potluck. And so we need to know how many people are coming because you're going to be fed well. And at coffee hour, you'll see a sign-up sheet on the doors of near the coffee. And please sign up so we can have a sense of how many people are here to feed well. We have a party because it's one of the ways that we build community. I've heard from many members in this fellowship that this is one of the few places in Winston Salem that they can truly be themselves. In the workplace, they often have to keep quiet about their philosophy, their sexuality, their politics. When they are here, they can express themselves. Now, that does not mean that everyone's going to agree with you, because UUs are famous for wanting to debate and discuss, even when they are in agreement. This is one of the reasons why we are an inclusive community and not an exclusive community. The spiritual discipline of Unitarian Universalism is looking for the inherent worth and dignity in all people, even the ones you do not like, even those who differ from you. Being inclusive means looking for the person behind the label: black, white, gay, straight, young, old, rich, poor, male, female, liberal, and conservative. We share a common humanity. But the goal here is not to make everybody the same, but to celebrate each other's differences. We build community in many ways. The dinner circles group people at random and give people a chance to meet people they might not ordinarily walk up to at coffee hour. And we have many parties: Halloween, New Year's, and did I mention there's a party this Saturday? The first Friday potlucks, the coffee house, the mountains, the ski trip are all ways that we build friendships across the generations. Fun times may seem frivolous, but this is where friendships are built. These are the people who will visit you in the hospital or when a loved one has died. These are the people who will help you move, whether physically, boxes into a new house, or move spiritually in a place that you are stuck. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship exists to build an inclusive community because everybody needs somebody and all of us need each other. But what are the characteristics of an inclusive community? What will we do with each other? First, this is a community of spiritual freedom. We have no creed. We have no password. No one has to check their faith at the door, and no one is forced to profess a belief in God. You are free to trust your own reason, your own intuition, and your own speculation. You are allowed, even asked, to question authority. But you are also asked to question your own authority. Be humble enough in your philosophy to listen to others. A fundamentalist Christian, a fundamentalist atheist, and a fundamentalist Muslim are still all fundamentalists, and they would find it very difficult to be in this community. Because here it is more important to ask the right questions than to have the right answers. Unquestioned beliefs are not worth having because they are fragile, and then they need to be protected, and they get locked away in a display case where they are no use. This is not a museum of comparative religion, but it's a laboratory or a playground where we put our philosophies to use, learning to love one another and build a better world. The next phrase in the proposed mission statement was the most difficult to formulate. We were trying to capture the various things that people said about what they enjoy about here. It would have been simpler if we had settled for religious education. But religious education did not quite cover the scope of what we were do here. There's the spirit of intellectual freedom, free inquiry. There's the aspect that some like to explore mysticism and the great mysteries of life. And so trying to get this whole wide scope of learning that developed across years where young learn from old and old learn from young, and that things are allowed to change. There were some strange thoughts that came to our heads, like empirical mysticism, developmental wonder, wondrous pondering, and sometimes ponderous wondering. Religious education, in some people's minds, suggests Sunday school for children, where kids memorize Bible verses or creeds. But we do more than that with our children. We want them to experience wonder and learn to ask questions, develop respect for differing beliefs. And this takes place outside of the classroom as well as on Sunday morning. That learning does not stop at childhood. The Sunday morning forum, you will see people really struggling and challenging each other on the issues of life. There are book groups and enrichment classes at the Friday potlucks, and there's so many things that we do. And many of the sermons are followed by comments and contradictions from those who have listened to the preacher. And I've never seen that in another denomination. Most churches have their own truth, which the preacher reveals. And the congregation is allowed to say, Amen. We believe that truth evolves. Different answers apply at different stages of our lives. We wonder, we speculate, we reason, we rationalize, we are inspired, we use our intuition. But we never quite get it. For every answer will raise new questions if we are brave enough to ask. Our religious education is not teaching some truth until everybody gets it. There's always more to know, and different ways of knowing. It is free inquiry balanced with mystical wonder. I call it evolving wisdom. Spiritual freedom, evolving wisdom. It cannot stop there, because we need to ask, what is our freedom for? And what is the point of learning something new? Spiritual freedom allows for ethical action. If you do a good deed because you expect a reward in heaven, that is selfish bargaining. If you do a good deed to avoid damnation, that is selfish fear. Learning cannot reside in an ivory tower, because the mind is connected to the body. A theory is useless unless tested and put into practice. Ethical action. It can be as small as planting a flower, giving a lonely person a smile. It might be the steps you take to give yourself a healthier body. It may be visiting someone who is ill, picking up hymnals after Sunday service. It can be the choices you make in shaping your family. It is voting your conscience. Ethical action is bringing a teddy bear to share with the pediatric AIDS patients. It's picking up litter during Clean Up Winston Salem. Ethical action is sponsoring multi-faith and multi-ethnic organizations in the community. It's marching in the Martin Luther King Jr. parade. It's producing cable TV programs that welcome gays and lesbians, straights, atheists, and Christians to join our community. It's buying Christmas presents for prisoners to give their children. It is talking with a small child. It is holding the hand of a friend or a stranger. It is going in peace and believing in peace so that you can create peace. Our most recent mission statement was made several years ago, and it's on the back of our orders of service. And it is basically the 7 principles of the Unitarian Universalist Association, with 2 major differences. It's in italics. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning as a never-ending commitment. That's about the 4th principle. The free thinkers and the love of debate that characterizes this congregation. We had to move that up to number 1. And then if you look at the bullets and count them, you'll see that there are 8 and not 7. This congregation added the necessity to act on our beliefs. And those are the distinctive qualities of this congregation. As members of the UUA, we will continue to affirm and promote the 7 principles, but the mission statement tries to get at who we are right now, right here, and what we hold up. And we haven't changed much over the years, even though that we've grown bigger. That evolving wisdom and that ethical action are so much a part of who we are. The proposed mission statement attempts to reflect who we are. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Winston-Salem exists to build an inclusive community of spiritual freedom, evolving wisdom, and ethical action. It's short enough to memorize, just in case you're out in public and somebody asks you what our church is about. And it can help us in our planning. When we're at a committee meeting and someone asks, is this consistent with our vision? It's helpful if someone at the table can actually remember the mission statement. Too often, congregations come up with mission statements that are lengthy, precise, and forgotten. In the next couple months, the long-range planning will be asking your input on this mission. I'm not having a talk back today because I don't want to discuss whether gerund phrases are appropriate. But you will have your chance to struggle with this and look at it. But more important than tweaking the words and phrases of the mission statement will be understanding the concepts behind the words, defining the vision, and living the goals. We can start today by realizing that pledging is consistent with our vision, because pledging builds the community. It pays the bills that gives us a place to gather. Pledging is inclusive. Everyone is invited. Do not be intimidated or offended by being asked. Give what you can. Do not give more than you can, for we do not want to cause hardship. But also do not give less than you can. If you have the ability to make an above-average pledge, it is a way of inviting those who are unable to do so. You are opening the door and making this community more inclusive. I think of Ada Cozier, who's 93 years old, and I don't think weighs 93 pounds. She's unable to open the doors to this fellowship. But those who are able open the door for her to make this place more inclusive. And there are some out in this congregation at this time in their life are not able to give what's listed in the pledge bulletin as an average pledge, and may never be able to do so. And that's why it's incumbent upon those who are able to open the door and have them be part of this community. I trust that those who can give more will. We give because this city needs a place of spiritual freedom, as a refuge for those who have been wounded by other faiths, as a place where people can take bold steps on their personal journey, their personal spiritual path. We give to provide the intellectual stimulation and the compassionate listening that allows wisdom to evolve. We give because this place helps us develop purpose for our lives. It gives us the strength to do what needs to be done. Pledging is an ethical action because working together we can accomplish so much more than we can by ourselves. May we bless and be blessed. I ask you to rise as you are able and join in singing hymn number 113,